Hello and welcome to Chanakya. I take immense pleasure in talking to our guest, whom we have earlier spoken to, a key member of AIBC, Mr. Vishwanathan. Uh, hello, sir. Welcome to
Yes,
Chanakya again.
yes. Good evening, Mala, and it's a great pleasure to meet with you and your viewers, and
Thank you, sir.
share my thoughts.
Thank you, sir. The key objective of today's discussion will be surrounding the recent visit of our External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, to Australia. If I'm right, this is the second time he is visiting Australia this year. Earlier, he visited in February, and now he has visited again on October 10th. So we'll get to know more about the visit from Vishwanathan, sir. And sir, I'm opening it up to you. So tell us more about the visit of Dr. Jaishankar. I want to hear right from the Tiranga welcome.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. This is the second visit of Dr. Jaishankar, and I was very fortunate to attend his interview or talk when he came for the first time in Australia India Institute. When he was interviewed there as well. And
Hmm.
then he was talking about that time it was the in connection with the Quad meeting he came,
Yeah.
and that was following the two prime ministers meeting, and the main emphasis that time was about the Quad, and also certain general observations about India's position about in various in the world political scene. And so that was a very general talk. But this time, he met with on the I mean, in 11th of October, he came to Sydney. Of course, he did visit New Zealand, and then he visited Canberra, and then he came to here. And then he had, to my knowledge, two engagements. One was important key meeting was meeting the Indian diaspora, key
Hmm.
members of the Indian diaspora. So, and then the Indian consulate in Sydney organized this meeting of the Indian diaspora with him.
Hmm.
And we were very privileged to listen to him. It's always a great privilege to listen to him, either in, in the television, but when you see him in person and listen to him, it's much more as if he's standing next to you and then talking to you. And the feeling which I got was uh, the man who represents the Indian foreign policy, the man who represents sort of the policy which is for the 1.4 billion people, conveying to a group of non-resident Indians is an amazing job. And he said it, he spoke about nearly 20, 25 minutes, and then such a simple, I would say, exchange. What he did was to convey the India's position, India's viewpoints. And as he is seen as an external affairs minister and has what is happening at the moment in the bilateral relations between India and Australia. And also, it reflected his vision for India's relationship, and which is going beyond a couple of years. And that also reflects, in a way, Prime Minister Modi's vision for this relationship. So, what we found was is his visit was quite fruitful from his perspective point of view, as well as from the bilateral point of view. So he did visit a couple of ministers. I'm going to talk about the areas in which he covered. So that's in short, he did convey um, a vision for the bilateral relationship.
Perfect. So I was very impressed with the Tiranga welcome that was given to him in Canberra. It really shows how much Australia is trying to align with India in various aspects and as strategic partners in Quad.
Yeah.
What was his address mainly about when he addressed the Indian diaspora there in Australia? What were the key points that he touched? What was his ask from the Indians there?
Okay. Basically, as you rightly said in the beginning, that this is the second visit. That's what he said. And then in this visit, he had met with a couple of key ministers, and that those ministers are, for example, the Minister of Education, Jaishankar, and also Penny Wong from the Foreign Minister,
Foreign Minister.
and possibly another one or two ministers in the, who were something to do with the immigration. But the point which he was trying to say was the areas of cooperation between India and Australia is growing, and in specific, um, if you see last couple of months, he's the sixth minister who is visiting from India. In last so many months, you had the education minister who came, and then we had the steel minister came, and then the minister of energy, Mr. R.K. Singh, was here. In fact, I personally attended some of these meetings, and they explained, the key aspects of their portfolios. So we have like that a couple of more than 5 or 6 ministers who came. What he emphasized was the very fact that the 6 ministers have visited in the last few months shows the importance India is giving to Australia. So it is in the quite some time back it was a look in east policy, but now it is very much in the focus, very much focus in the center. So that is what he was trying to say. And what he said was that it is how much focus on the relationship we are giving, and it is fully reciprocated by the Australian side, because we are also seen following the two prime ministers meeting. Even when the government has changed, immediately the very first day, I mean, this is what he was emphasizing. The very first day of forming the government, and he had met with Penny Wong, uh, and in Tokyo, and so that showed the importance of Australian from Australian side to reciprocate their relationship with India, irrespective of the political spectrum. So that is one thing, and then um, there were also indications of which areas India wants to collaborate with Australia. For example, there are many areas, many industry areas, but I think the key focus is going to be on education and skill development, and critical minerals, um, the energy side, renewable energy and hydrogen and that kind of thing, and mining. So these are the type of areas which, and then also there are opportunities for tourism and hospitality, because there is another area which is developing. So these are the 3 4 areas which is going to be focused uh, in the coming years. So he has met with the corresponding ministers, and that's what he was saying. And overall,
And I think this is pretty closer to what we discussed last time,
yeah,
a few weeks back, about the increase in the visas for
correct.
students coming to Australia,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
And
Yeah.
we also spoke about how the story of Gautam Adani has turned into a positive side in
Yeah.
Australia, and how his business interests are benefiting both nations, right?
Yes, that's right.
So it's aligned with
It's absolutely aligned, and then it also showed a vision of the future relationship in certain specific areas. For example, education. I mean, all that he has given is the headlines, and we
okay,
can make out
yeah,
so much for that.
obviously,
We can make
obviously.
out, we can infer from that headlines. What we are noticing is the change of the immigration policy. That is a that is very much on the positive side. To tell you the truth, one of our representations from the Australian Business Council, as well as from the Business Council of Australia and few other industry bodies to the governments, irrespective of the labor or liberal, is the migration policy of Australia historically has not been inconsistent with the business requirements. So when the business and economy is growing, and then there is a skill shortage, and when you're putting a ceiling on the student numbers or the immigration numbers, it doesn't match. In fact, recently I read an article that the skill shortage, as estimated by you know, the industry bodies may have to be revised because now there is so much of technological developments happening throughout the world, and Australia is also catching up and leading in some of these technologies. So there are certain areas which the skill shortages have to be reassessed, and the only way it can be done is only by the employers. So what they are saying is, instead of the government deciding or any of this other body deciding, let the employers decide what are the skill shortages. So when you see that, it is directly meeting with what the business wants, and this is exactly what the business councils of Australia, including Australian Business Council, want. So
Mhm.
that is a positive step. That thinking is there now to align that skill shortage. A meeting, I mean, how to meet Australian skill shortage. One thing which is coming up is the increase in the student numbers, which is what they have said. But also, Dr. Jaishankar has pointed out it is not only I would say growing I mean, I would say relationship, but there are also some challenges. For example, if there is a waiting period for the Indian students to come to Australia, it defeats the purpose. So they're going to look at cutting down that waiting time. The
Mm.
other thing which is happening is the recognition of the skills, educational qualifications and skills. So previously, even though if somebody is well qualified in India, they will have their certification will have to be reassessed here. And sometimes, the people have to go through certain exams and certifications, and you may have to again practice with get some local experience. And I think this is all going to be putting the clock back. So, but now they are reaching an agreement to recognize mutually the skills and the certifications. So that is a very, again, a positive step. And the third thing which they are doing is, of course, allowing the students to also work and choose their areas of work. And that way, they will be able to contribute to the economy of Australia in a much better. And they have removed certain restrictions on the working. So if you see collectively all these things, it is a golden period coming for the international students, especially from India. And that's why we would like to encourage all the students from India to think about Australia as a country where they can not only study and also contribute to Australian economy and in a way Indian economy as well.
Perfect,
Uh,
sir. Perfect.
he was also saying that
Go ahead,
India
sir.
has a lot of youngsters. It's also essential that these youngsters need to get an international exposure to get a broader vision of what's happening in the global industry so that they can contribute to the global economy much better and also to India. So that is another thing which has come out in this. Um, so overall, it was more of a vision of the future direction of bilateral relations.
So, that's great, sir. So he also inaugurated the FMFD, right? So the Foreign Ministers Framework Dialogue. And
Yeah.
what were the any idea of what were the key points that were discussed there, and
I
anything?
think if I understand in general, in his speech, what he was also mentioning is apparently the government of India has got some kind of an agreement with Japan and for easy movement of technical people. So something like a joint agreement of movement of people. So that was one area he was mentioning. So we'll have to wait for the details, but that is what also he was mentioning.
Perfect, perfect. Any other important treaties or further business development initiatives that was spoken about
Uh,
in
see,
particular?
mainly, he said that in general, the current business with Australia is about $27 billion.
Mhm.
Okay, but within a couple of years, we want to have a big jump in this trade. So what he was saying is the Indian diaspora needs to work with, to both the governments to make sure that this they can contribute to the growth of this area,
Mhm.
and that is what he emphasized. And the two things which are going to be contributing significantly to this growth of business is one is the ECTA, which is Economic Cooperation Trade Agreement. It is nearly getting finalized, and then it is going to be probably in next few months. That is the target, and that will allow the increased trade between India and Australia. And also, they have removed the double taxation difficulties. The double taxation is Indian companies get taxed in India as well as here, and so that anomaly also has been. They are working through that to remove
Mhm.
that. Uh,
Any
Difficulty.
specific verticals which would be benefited, or any specific business areas that would be benefited by this ECTA?
Absolutely, absolutely. It is very clear. Education is in the foremost.
Okay, okay,
Critical minerals in the number two, and then hydrogen, renewable energy is in the three,
okay.
and there are of course the traditional sectors like the agriculture, which is naturally growing, and then you have
You said hospitality. Yeah.
yeah, hospitality and tourism.
Mm-hmm.
Clean energy also, I was saying that it is going to be very much in focus. Clean
Yep.
energy. Yeah. So
Okay.
I would say education, energy, critical minerals, these are the top three areas. And of course, the other hospitality and tourism will be following this.
Okay, being not just in Quad, we are also the both the countries have common interest in the Indo-Pacific region. So,
Yes,
where there talks about the Indo-Pacific region across,
yes.
I'm sure that must be. If you can
That
give us some
he did
information.
not talk in the Indian diaspora, but I think there was a special interview at the Lowy Institute following
Mm,
this his, talk with us, and then he went to the Lowy Institute, and there apparently he was interviewed. I could not go there, but I knew that there was questions about this, and which he handled very well.
mm,
And I've seen his response to these questions even in the first time when he came to Australia. And then uh, the bottom line is only India knows the India's position. Like we know exactly what role we want to play in the international political area, and there are reasons for that, and we don't have to say all the reasons. We don't have to explain all the reasons to all the other countries because it's all certain things are determined after assessing so much of criteria. So that is the thing which he was trying to convey. He did convey in the first meeting as well, and which was deeply appreciated by the Australian counterparts. And basically, it's agree to disagree. I mean that in certain areas where people may not agree, but okay, that's their viewpoint. But the point is, it is all internal or external decisions of India, which need to be respected in that context. Like we are not questioning about other countries what decision they take in certain
okay.
areas. So same manner, and then the emphasis was to say that okay, please respect India's decision. So that was very well received also, and that is the same thing which in certain in the recent developments what is happening in other countries. What India's position is. It's purely left to the consideration of Indians. I would say the assessing the various things.
My last question, sir. How does the Indian community in Australia feel about such frequent visits from different ministers from India? So, are they more encouraged to?
They are, in fact, they're very excited, and
Okay.
they are also very getting very busy. In fact, we are getting ready to receive Honorable Nitin Gadkari ji next week. He's also visiting, and I understand there are other ministers also following. And hopefully, we are also expecting the Indian Prime Minister to visit Australia.
Next year,
That will
yeah.
be the biggest. I would say, treat to the Indian community here. And then, in fact, I was personally there 2014 when he visited Sydney, and to listen to him. And he's a great motivator. And by writing about his visit, I even got an award for writing of that article. So what I'm saying, in principle, the 730,000 strong community is very, very excited about all these visits. And the one of the plus points of the growing Indian community is because of the skilled migration, all the people who are coming here are extremely talented and well qualified and well trained. And with the hope they will be able to contribute. They're looking for opportunities to contribute to Australian economy as well as to Indian economy with their skills. And organizations like Australia India Business Council, and there are Business Council of Australia, there are so many other organizations want to tap into this. In fact, now they are appreciative of the uh, the potential of the Indian companies, the potential of the Indian business. And think about India. India is not next China. That is also to be appreciated, and that is a, I mean, that also is coming out with the various trade discussions, and especially in the skill shortages, it is more or less. Uh, I would say it is a recognition by the industry bodies here. Now they are to start considering India. So it's a question of time before more Australian companies come and participate in Indian projects. And the same manner, I think I also appeal to the Indian companies to come to Australia to see what is the potential they've got here. I mean, in fact, today I just heard the next budget, coming budget of the Australian budget, there are billions of dollars that are going to be spent on infrastructure. So where are the Indian companies? We have seen only Adani, but we want to see more Indian companies. And bilateral trade cannot be one-sided. We cannot be only talking about Australian companies coming to India. We also want Indian companies to come to Australia, and also think about taking certain ways of smartly taking back that business to India as well in terms of win-win situation. There are opportunities to get the Australian technologies manufactured in India. There are ways of participating in the local market here, the local, I would say, infrastructure and other areas of like including renewable energy. There is also hydrogen, clean hydrogen technologies here. Very importantly, defense sector is quite promising, and within the defense sector, the cyber security, as we're saying that we are, Australia was one of the companies was recently subjected to a big cyber attack. And so the cybersecurity is a big issue here, as well as perhaps definitely to India as well. So this area we can cooperate, and there is already the governments have allocated billions of dollars for that. And similarly, the Indian, I would say, for the defense manufacturing, many areas of the defense products have been open to now foreign direct investment, and there is an opportunity for Australian companies. So when we have the defense and security chapter established, we also emphasize the Australian companies to invest in Indian, manufacturing facilities to manufacture some of the subsystems. There are areas like satellite technologies, which can be a joint cooperation. Smart manufacturing, Industry 4.0, that is another area. There's a lot of areas in construction as well. Steel. So you name it. I mean, there is sky is the limit. There is so much happening in agriculture as well. So the bilateral cooperation can be strengthened by more Indian companies physically being present here, and then working out how best we can work together for a win-win situation.
Perfect, sir. Thank you so much for taking time and talking to us and shedding light on the key points about the External Affairs Minister's visit to Australia. We'll stay connected and talk further about Nitin Gadkari's visit very soon.
Yeah,
Thank you so
sure.
much, sir.
And I think the Indian students must start looking into, considering Australia as their favorite destination, which is going to be very good actually.
I'm sure they're going to think about
Yeah.
it. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.